Hello National 5 people, welcome to another week. So last week we got through a fair bit. We were multiplying out all sorts of brackets, whether it was 2 brackets, 3 brackets, and with different amounts of terms in the brackets. So our starters are going to be revision of that, and then we're going on to Factorising today. So I hope you had a good weekend, and you should be able to get on with these starters just now and pause it and then see, check that you've got the right answers. But if you're feeling a bit rusty, stick around and we'll get that organised. Okay, so first one then, we've got a 5x that's multiplying out this bracket here, and then we've got minus 8x and plus 1. So remember that these things are not involved until the bracket has been multiplied out. So we do that first. So we've got 5x times 3x, okay? So 5 times 3 is 15. X times x is x squared. We mustn't forget about the squared. And then that was that. So then we've got 5x times negative 2 gives us negative 10x. Then we've still got minus 8x plus 1. So I would say at this stage, if you're still having to think quite hard about multiplying out things like this and simplifying, then go back over last week's work, because at this stage we need to assume that we can do all that. So just do more practice. Give me a shout if you're not sure, okay? So simplifying what we've got here, we've got 15x squared, and then minus 10x minus 8x gives us minus 18x, and they've got a plus 1 as well, okay? And then the second question, we've got 3 bits to this, so we'll recap the different methods that we've used. So first of all, I'm going to multiply these 2 brackets out using lines. So the first line is this one, x times x is x squared. Then the next line, x times 2 is plus 2x. Then we've got 1 times x is plus x, and 1 times 2 is plus 2. So altogether, x squared, and then we've got plus 3x plus 2. Okay, next one. This time we'll use FOIL. So remember, that's firsts, outsides, insides, lasts. So the first 2 things multiplied together, that's the x's. So x times x is x squared. The outsides, let's see if I can rub that one out. Yeah, the outsides are the ones that are furthest away from each other. So that gives us negative 4x. Then the insides are the 2 that are closest together. So that's these 2. So we've got plus 3x. And then the lasts are the end things in both brackets. So that gives us these 2. So it's the last things in both brackets. So it's a positive 3 times a negative 4. So that's minus 12. So we've got x squared, and then the combination here gives us minus x, and then minus 12. Okay, and then the last one, we'll use a table. So we've got x minus 5 and x minus 2 here. So we're going to fill in all the spaces. So first space is x times x, so that gives us x squared. The second space is here, so we've got negative 5x. The next space to fill in is this one, so that's negative 2x. And then the last space is this one, and that gives us plus 10, or positive 10. So altogether there, it's these 2 that are going to be combined. So we get x squared minus 7x altogether and plus 10. Okay, so we should be okay with multiplying out 2 brackets using whatever method you find works best for you. Okay, so let's get on to our next bit of work then. So this is where we're heading over the next 2 or 3 weeks. So to start with, today we're going to factorise expressions just using common factors. Then tomorrow we're going on to a difference of 2 squares. Then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we're going to be factorising trinomials. Okay, so we'll find out what all those are as we're going along. It might be the case that next week we go back over the factorising that we've already done and make sure we're good at that before we get on to the trickier trinomials and the two-step factorising. Okay, sounds like a dance, doesn't it? All right, so let's bash on with this then. So to be able to factorise using a common factor, we need to revise what we mean by factors and common factors. So we've just rewound the clock a little bit to when we've previously done factors lower down the school. So let's think about these. Get a nice colour, there we go. So factors of 10 are the times tables where you'll find 10 as an answer, okay? They're the numbers that divide exactly into 10, or in other words, the numbers that can multiply to give 10. And when we're listing factors, there's a really easy way of doing it to make sure you get them all. So if you start off with 1 and the number itself, then what we're doing here is writing down our factors in pairs, which is going to be very important for when we do our factorising using algebra. Okay, so we've got 1 and 10 to start with, then we think the next number up would be 2. 2 does go into 10 and it goes in 5 times. 3 doesn't go into 10. 4 doesn't go into 10. 5 would be the next number, but we've already got it there, so we stop because that means we've got all the factors of 10 now. And if you list them like this, they will always be in order if you read in that direction. So down the first column and up the second. So we can say that the factors of 10 are 1, 2, 5 and 10. Okay, let's do the factors of 24 in the same way. Start off with 1 and the number itself, and then see, does 2 go into 24? Yes, it does, so write it down and write its partner down. So 2 times 12 is 24. Does 3 go into 24? Yes, it does, so write down 3 and write down its partner. 3 times 8 is 24. Does 4 go into 24? Yes, it does, and it goes in 6 times. Does 5 go into 24? No, it doesn't. So the next number we would be about to write down would be 6, but 6 is already there. Once you hit a number that's already in the right-hand column, then we know we've got them all and we read them in order that way. So the factors of 24 are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12 and 24. So it's got lots of factors, hasn't it? Right, the next one, 50. Do it in exactly the same way. So 1 and 50. Does 2 go into 50? Yes, it does. So write it down. 2 times 25. Does 3 go into 50? Nope, so don't write that. 4? Nope, don't write it. 5? Yes. 5 times 10. 6 doesn't go into 50. Neither does 7, 8 or 9. And then we're up to 10, which is already in our right-hand column. So that means we've got all the factors now, we just need to list them. So it's 1, 2, 5, 10, 25 and 50. Okay, so I'm going to do 72 over here because 72 is one of those numbers that got lots and lots of factors. Okay, so start off with 1 and 72. And then does 2 go into 72? Yes, it does. Half of 72 is 36. Does 3 go into 72? It does. There's 72 hours in 3 days, so that must mean 3 times 24 is 72. 4 goes into 72. If you half it, you get 36, and half it again, so that's 18. We can see that 5 doesn't go into 72, but 6 does. 6 12s are 72. 7 doesn't go into 72 because 7 goes into 70. 8 does go into 72 and it goes in 9 times. So our next number up would be 9, but we've already got it there. So we know we've got all the factors now. We just need to list them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 9, 12, 18, 24, 36 and 72. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 factors. Okay, so that's how we find factors of numbers, okay? Now, next question I need us to look at is finding common factors. So that's numbers that are factors of both of the numbers. So we want to know, basically, if we listed the factors of 9 and the factors of 12, which ones would they have in common? Okay, so the factors of factors of 9 to start with, if we were to write them out like we were doing previously, we'd get 1, 3 and 9. If we were to list the factors of 12, we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 and 12. So the common factors, numbers that are in both lists, are 1 and 3, and that's it. Okay, so the common factors of 9 and 12 are 1 and 3. Okay, let's look at 24 and 32. So again, I'm just going to write out the list. So 24 is one of the ones we already did. So if I leave that there, we can just copy that down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12 and 24. And 32, have we done 32? No. So 32 is 1, 2, not 3. It is 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, 8. Then 16 and 32. Okay, so they're all the factors of 24 and 32. If we look at the numbers that are in both lists, we've got 1, 2, not 3, 4's in both, 6 isn't, 8 is, and 12, 24, 16, 32, they're not in both. Okay, so the common factors of 24 and 32 are 1, 2, 4 and 8. Okay, the common factors of 51 and 18, we can do that in the same way. The factors of 51, let's have a look at 51, we'll just do it over here. So we've got 1 and 51, 2 doesn't go into 51, but 3 does. 3 17s are 51. 4 doesn't, in fact, no even numbers can go into 51 because 51's odd. Okay, so 4 doesn't, we can see 5 doesn't, 6 won't anyway, 7 doesn't, 8 doesn't, 9 doesn't. Then we've got 10 doesn't, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So that is all of the factors of 51 there. So we've got 1, 3, 17. Oh, look what I've done there. Silly me. I said 51 and I wrote 52. So 1 and 51, 3 and 17, sorry. So there we go, that's that fixed. Then the factors of 18 are 1, 2, 3, not 4 or 5, but 6, not 7, 8, but we've got 9 and 18. Okay, and what we can always find as well is that when we look, if we list our factors in order, if we look at the first one and the last one, they multiply together to give 18. And then if we come in 1, 2 times 9 is 18. And then 3 times 6 is 18. So the pairs are separated. Okay, so looking at the common factors, we've got 1 and 3, and that's it. Okay, so the common factors of 51 and 18 are 1 and 3. Now, if we can just have a look at what we found out. So we've got 1 and 3, 1, 2, 4 and 8, 1 and 3. So we can see each time in all of these lists, you're always going to get 1 for a common factor. Okay, just bear that in mind because we never really use 1 as a common factor when we're factorising because it doesn't help us. Because, for example, like if we're looking in this list, the partner of 1 is the number itself. Okay, so we never really take out 1 as a common factor, but we'll see that as we're going along. Right, now what we've got here is some algebra. So we're looking at numbers and letters separately. All right. So looking at the numbers, first of all, if we look at 3 and 15, if we think about our common factors. We don't need to be writing out lists every time, we can just think of these now. So we know that the highest common factor of 3 and 15 is 3, okay? Oops. And the common factor that we've also got here, if you have a look, we've got y and y there. So 3y is a common factor of 3y and 15y, okay? And if we were just to think about the partners, this is 3y times 1, and this is 3y times 5. So we're going to be using that when it comes on to, when we come on to doing actual factorising. Okay, so the other factors that are common, of course, will always have 1, okay? And we've got 3 and we've got y, okay? So these are things that all would have a partner that would multiply to give us 3y or 15y. Okay, moving on to the next one. Looking at the numbers, I think we will write these out as a list. So the numbers that we've got in common there, common factors, we've got 1, 2, 3, and not 4 and 5, but we've got 6, and then there's nothing bigger than 6 that goes into 12 and 18. And if we think about what multiplies to make p and p squared, we can see that p would go into p squared and p would go into p. So the common factors here are any combination of 1, 2, 3 or 6 with p. Okay, so if we just list those, we'd have 1, 2, 3 and 6, and we've got p, and then we've got also we'd have 2p or 3p or 6p. So it's any combination of those numbers that are the common factors with the p's. Okay, and then lastly we're going to look at 20c squared and 25c cubed. So in numbers, the common factors are 1 and 5, and that's all. Okay, and then the things that multiply together to give us c squared or c cubed, well, c would go into c squared and c cubed, but so would c squared, okay, because this is, here we've got c squared times 1, and this is c squared times c, okay? So any combination of these numbers with these also gives us our common factors. So as well as c and c squared, we would have 5c and 5c squared. Okay, so we've got lots of different things. All you've got to make sure when you're finding a common factor is that you can find a partner that will multiply to give you your originals. Okay, so let's just have a little think about that just now. If we just, for example, chose 5c, we can think that we would have to multiply that by 4 to get the 20 and c to get the c squared. If we were multiplying 5c by something to get 25c cubed, then we'd be doing 5 times 5, it gives us a 25, and c times c squared would give us a c cubed. So 5c times 5c squared would give us 25c cubed. And we can see that 5c squared is one of our common factors here. Okay, great stuff. Right, so now we're going to look for a moment at highest common factor. So the highest common factor is the biggest thing that goes into 2 or more terms. So just a second, I'm going to grab myself a nice little highlighter here, I think. And there we go. Right, so if we're looking at highest common factor, so it's the biggest thing that goes into both. So if we go right back to here, then the biggest thing, the highest common factor there is 3. So 3 is the highest common factor of 9 and 12. If we're looking at 24 and 32, the highest common factor is 8. If we're looking at 51 and 18, the highest common factor is 3. So it's the biggest thing that goes into both. So when we're looking at algebra, it's the biggest number and the highest amount of the letter as well, or the highest power of the letter as well. So in this list, the biggest number is 3. Looking at this list here, the biggest number is 3, and we want the letter involved as well. So 3y is the highest common factor there. In 12p squared and 8p, the highest number is 6, and we need the highest power of p as well, so that would give us the 6p. And then in the 20c squared and 25c cubed, 5 is the highest number, c squared is the highest letter term that goes into c squared and c cubed, so the combination of those is 5c squared. That's the highest common factor. Okay, so what you can see here is if you pick the biggest number along with the highest power of the letter, so biggest number with the highest power of the letter, that'll give you the highest common factor. Okay, so although we've not written anything here for highest common factor, we've looked at it there. So we'll just do one little example of highest common factor, and then we're going to move on and look at actually using it to factorise. Okay, so a highest common factor of, for example, that didn't work very well, did it? Didn't want yellow. There we go. The highest common factor of 6t squared and 18t cubed, for example. So the highest number that goes into 6 and 18, so the highest common factor of 6 and 18 is 6. And the biggest thing that goes into t squared and t cubed is t squared. So the highest common factor of 6t squared and 18t cubed is 6t squared. Okay, so the partner of 6t squared in 6t squared would be, that'd be 6t squared times 1, remember? And to get 18t cubed, that would be 6t squared. Well, 6 would need to be multiplied by 3 to get the 18, and the t squared would need to be multiplied by t to get the t cubed. Okay, so let's go on then, and we'll just factorise these expressions using a common factor, and then you'll be able to practice. Okay, so first one then, 15n plus 10. Well, when we factorise that using a common factor, we need to find the highest common factor. So it's only going to be a number because we don't have any letters in the second term. So the highest number that goes into 15 and 10 is 5. So we're going to take out 5 as a common factor, and then we put the partners in the bracket so that when we multiply it out in the usual way, we get 15n plus 10. So 5 times 3n gives us 15n, and 5 times 2 gives us 10. Okay, moving on to the next one. Oops. So we've got 25 and 50 as our numbers. So the highest common factor of 25 and 50 is going to be 25. That's the biggest number that goes into both. But if you have a look, we've got e and e squared. And if we looked at the factors of e and e squared, we would have e. Okay, e goes into both of these, doesn't it? So we put 25e as the highest common factor outside the bracket, and then we need the partners inside the bracket. So 25e times this has to give us 25e. So that must just be 1. 25e times 1 is 25e. Okay, then what goes here in the bracket has to be 25e times that thing will give us negative 50e squared. So we can see that we're going to need a minus to get the negative. 25 times 2 is 50, and e times e is e squared. you can always check these by multiplying them out and checking that they work. So if we just have a look at that, 25e times 1 is 25e. 25e times negative 2e will give us negative 50e squared. So that's what we needed. Okay, moving on. Next one. So the highest common factor, look at the numbers first and then the letters. So the numbers, 32 and 4. So the highest common factor there is 4. And if you look at the letters, there is a B in both terms, but there isn't a D, so we can't put D as a common factor. So 4B times whatever we're putting in here is equal to 32B. So 4 times 8 is 32. So 4B times 8 is 32B. So that one's fine. Then we've got to make 4BD. So what do we multiply 4B by? I have to put it there to get 4BD. Well, it's just D, isn't it? So we need a plus D. Okay. Next one. We've got 40u cubed, 12u squared, 20u. So look at the numbers first. We've got 40, 12 and 20. So the biggest number that goes into all of those is 4 again. And if you have a look at the letters now, we've got U goes into this, U goes into this, and U goes into this. But there's nothing higher than U that is in all of them. Okay, so we need to stick with the lowest power of U for common factors here. So we've got, we need to put a U. Hang on, let me do that a bit better. Sorry. So we've got 4u times, so remember when we're multiplying out this times this has to give us 40u cubed. So the number has to be 10, and to make u cubed, that would need to be u squared. Okay, then we need to do our next bit. So 4u times this is going to give us negative 12u squared. So it's going to have to be minus, and 4 times 3 is 12, u times u is u squared. And then the last term has to be 4u times this last term is equal to positive 20u. So the number needs to be 5, because 4 times 5 is 20. It's got to be positive, so we stick with a plus. And we don't need anything else because 4u times 5 is 20u. So there's no letters required with that. Okay, nearly done for today. So the next one, if we look at common factors of the numbers, that's 3. Then we can see there's a y term in both. But if we have a look, we've got y cubed and y squared. So actually, we can have the power of 2 there with the y, because y squared goes into y cubed and y squared goes into y squared. So we need our bracket. Now remember, this times this has to give us 6y cubed. So the number needs to be 2, and y squared times y is y cubed. Then a plus in the middle, and then we've got 3y squared times something gives us 9y squared. So the number needs to be 3. And if we think about that, 3y squared times 3 is 9y squared. So that's all we've got there. And then the last one, we've got 5 and 20. So the highest common factor of 5 and 20 is 5. Having a look at both terms, we can see we've got an a in both. So we can put a as a common factor. But also we've got a b in both as well. So we can put b as our additional common factor. So 5ab times this has to give us 5ab squared. So if we look at this term, it's only the b that's squared. Okay, so all that we need to multiply 5ab by to get 5ab squared is going to be b. Okay, and then everything's positive, so we'll keep the plus. And then we've got 5ab times something gives us this. So 5 times, look at the number, it's got to be 4. And then the a times whatever's there has to give us a squared. So that's going to have to be another a, isn't it? And we've already got the b. So if we just have a quick check here, 5ab times 4a gives us 20 a squared b, which is what we need. So that bracket's finished. Okay, so that's how we factorise using a common factor. I know this lesson's been a little bit longer than some of the others, but I wanted to do it all in one go. So we'll do this for our starters tomorrow, and there'll be practice questions for you as well. I'm going to set homework for you in the next day or two that'll be due at the end of the week. So it might be that you need to leave the end ones until we get to maybe Wednesday, Thursday time. Okay, so I will hopefully see you tomorrow, and give me a shout if there's anything that you feel needs explaining again. Okay, see you later.